Bobby Moore and Sir Jeff Hurst, the Trevor Brooking and Billy Bonds, Paolo Di Canio, West Ham United. We celebrate our victories, we stick together in defeat. I'm proud of our history, West Ham United, more than just a podcast, more than just a podcast.
Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. This is more than just a podcast. Season 13, episode 8. No clanging of plates, no dodgy internet, no dodgy mics.
I didn't listen, to be honest with you.
It's probably wise. It didn't go well. And do you know what? I was kicking myself afterwards because I forgot, although I didn't take my Mac, my son had a Mac. I had an external microphone that didn't fit the my iPod Pro, so I could have done it a bit more professionally. It wouldn't have stopped the clanging because there was a party going on. But do you know what? They do say something's better than nothing. I'm not sure that applied to last week, so apologies.
Well, it's going to apply to this week as well.
Well, it's the old uns. It's an old person takeover.
Absolutely.
50-somethings, although if I'm 60, as you said the other week, that must make
I didn't say
61.
it. It wasn't me who said it. We don't know who said it.
Yeah, we don't know. Do you know?
Do I know?
Yeah.
I haven't had that information passed on to me. But then I haven't pressed it. But I did see it and I found it highly amusing.
Yeah. Anyway, John, where are you?
And your picture, it's so old.
I know. Whoever got that from the internet. So
dear.
If you don't know me. Where are you? What are you doing, John?
I'm at home talking to yous, doing a podcast.
Yeah. I've come back from Spain and it's hotter here than it is in Spain. It's like 29, 30 degrees here in Blighty today.
Yeah, it was 34 in the van when I got in there today.
So yeah, this is a takeover of 50-something season ticket holders. No Nigel tonight. He's in Plymouth at the moment, and he's about to fly to Japan.
He's big in Japan.
Big in Japan. I don't know what Shedman's doing in Japan. I didn't even know he had a passport, but he's off to Japan. So I'm sure we'll hear all about that. Plymouth to Japan. What a jet setter. And he has a go at me. No Canning Town Len tonight. He's busy like last week, but hopefully we're getting back next week. And we were hoping to get your son, George, but this heat's not being fair to his young children, is it?
Yeah, it's the time of day we're trying to do this, and he's currently running around his garden chasing his children. So,
right, let's manage your expectations early. Number one, there ain't going to be any question time. Right? We don't like question time, so we're not going to do one. Number two, this ain't going to be a 2-hour podcast, right? It's going to be half an hour at the shortest.
Factual.
It's going to be between 30 and 40 minutes max, right? So just manage your expectations.
40 minutes?
Yeah, I know, sorry. 40 minutes max, I said.
Okay.
If we go to 45, just cut me off. We were top of the league. I say we were top of the league, John.
We were.
We've been it twice.
I know.
Well, it's a bit disappointing.
Heady days.
As we record today, we are fourth. I didn't know that.
Disappointing.
That Liverpool.
Moyes out.
Moyes out. I don't know. I didn't know that Liverpool jumped ahead of us. But the way I like to see it is we've got 10 points. We're 30 points from safety.
Yes.
And we're joint second, actually.
Well, I mean,
on points.
You consider the season we had last year to be sat here with 10 points.
I know, it's crazy.
It sort of smacks of having a half decent season now, doesn't it? Without real pressure on, hopefully.
We'll come to this later of what Karen Brady said about David Moyes, which I'm sure you heard.
Brady out.
I'll play the little clip at the end as a little bonus for the lack of content.
Do you have to, really?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, after the theme tune. Sing the theme tune. You won't even have to listen to it. You don't listen to this back, so there's no way you're going to ever listen to it.
All right.
Anyway, we are here not to talk about Karen Brady, and this is where you go...
Brady out.
Yeah.
Yep.
We are here to talk about football. We had another game of
Football.
football against Luton Town
We did.
as our fans sung "We Can See You in the Bath." Did you see that? We can
I
see
did
you in
see
the
that.
bath.
Yeah, so
Very
walking through
funny.
the
First
terraces.
people to play at Kenilworth Road in the Premier League. Um, I was a little bit apprehensive, and I thought of you, John, because I thought, here we go. We've got a team who doesn't like possession of the ball playing us who don't like possession of the ball. So, was the ball just going to sit there in open play for most of the game? But actually, being it was a home game, Luton Town gave us the ball. I
Yeah,
thought, will we know what to do with it?
we took control of the game, didn't we?
We
Really.
did.
So
We
it
had no
was.
choice, really. Otherwise, it would have just been, no, you have the ball. No, you have the ball.
But I mean, I know it was. I kind of thought it would. Well, it could have been a draw because the way it all panned out.
Yeah.
But overall, we didn't really feel threatened for most of the game. We were in control of the game mostly, and
The goal was coming, wasn't it? I know, obviously,
yes.
Bowen scored on 37 minutes, but I don't think they had a single shot on target.
Well, we just look. We say we controlled the ball. Um, we we run the tempo of the game. They had a couple of sort of breakaways, but they didn't really threaten the target. I mean, Areola basically didn't do hardly anything. Picked the ball out
No.
of the net once,
Well,
but
that's it. I'm just looking at the stats. A good time for the stat attack, nice and early. They had 16 shots, but only one on target. So that's got to be the one that went in the goal.
yeah,
We had 9 shots, 3 on target, 2 of which went in the goal. We had a heady 62% possession, their 38. We made 609 passes to their 366. Our pass accuracy was 83 to their 72. We committed 13 fouls to their 8. And we had 6 corners to their 9. A lot of corners. Yeah, it's a lot of passes. The boys must be exhausted, John.
well, it kind of just shows you they've got it in them. So we have the
Yeah,
ability to pass the ball, and but the performance was like you said, it was a banana skin waiting to happen, wasn't it? It was that they
yeah,
were up for it. It was their first game back at Kenilworth Road and in the Premier League, and it was this amazing atmosphere was going to be created. And
yeah.
I mean, I've seen some of the comments from people that were there saying how the atmosphere was really great. Some of the chanting was abusive, but let's not go on our high
On
horse
on
about.
our their side, I heard that. Yeah,
Yeah, but let's not get on our high horses about that
no,
because
that's not.
So you know I think the TV didn't really cover it or put it across how the atmosphere was because it didn't seem that amazing when I was watching the game on the TV. But yeah, it
Well,
was
since there's only 2 of us, take us through it. Walk us through the game
walk us
to
through it.
to the goal. Obviously, Zuma's goal, and then the finishing. If what you can remember,
Well,
anyway.
okay, well what I can remember, like we took control of the ball early on. We kept possession well. We threatened more than they did. Um, and Paquetá was very busy, throwing
Yeah.
himself about. Did he get booked again? I'm sure he
No, he
did or not.
didn't. We had one booking each, and it wasn't Bakatar. Well,
No.
I'm trying to remember who it was who got booked.
But he again looked really good, really up for it.
Yeah,
His delivery,
Alvarez looked amazing.
yeah, his delivery for Bowen was sublime, and
Yeah,
Bowen's finish was a good finish, low down, and the keeper palmed it in, so the keeper didn't cover himself in glory. Bowen turned away, putting his finger to his mouth, telling them all to shut up for chanting
yeah,
about his
Bowen.
missus.
Yeah.
But yeah,
What were they saying about
Alvarez.
his missus?
I can't remember, Sean. Do you want to tell us everyone what they were singing?
I know. I don't know. I don't know what it was.
No, saying that she was a loose woman.
Oh,
Um,
how rude! How rude!
Alvarez, yeah, like you said, he's looking He's looking good. I like the
I
look of
heard a
him.
statement, and I'm going to repeat the statement. You tell me if it's true. We sold the best defensive midfielder in the Premier League for 105 million, and we've bought the best defensive midfielder to be for 35 million.
Well, is that true?
No, I don't know,
I
but
can't tell you if that's
that's
true.
that's a statement that was on social media. I
That's
mean, it
going a bit
sounded
early, isn't it?
it's probably going a bit early, but you know what? He and I know people said this a few weeks ago, but we're are we playing better without Declan Rice, John?
Well, I, look, I don't know. I mean, we played better against on Friday against Luton. I mean, there's no, you can't escape the fact that how pissed off I was, even though we won with that game, the previous game
Yeah.
against Brighton. I'm kind of, I appreciate the results are superb and our managers won a trophy and all of this, but I support West Ham because you dragged me up there when we were 11, 12
Mm.
years old. We were watching like Devonshires and the Brookings, and you know, I bought into, I was sold the West Ham way of football. Where there's songs about the West Ham way, there's podcasts, there's a way that we enjoy to watch football, knowing full well that we don't win the Premier League, and we get our
Yeah.
entertainment out of watching entertaining football.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't disagree.
So, and that's why that first half against Brighton, even though we went 1-0 up, I think was one of the worst performances I'd seen. Now, the
Yeah.
second half, I mean, the finishing, the counter attacks, were of such a high level. There's no arguing about it. But you know, are we looking better now that Rice has gone? We look different, I would say. And I think we've got the potential to be a
To
little
win the
bit more,
league.
little bit more, a little bit more fluid and a little bit more attacking. I mean, Ward-Prowse has
Oh, it's
just
immense.
just been incredible
I know your
since
son.
he's come
Emerson
in.
was the only one to get a yellow card, by the way. I just looked at it.
Yeah, I mean, his disallowed goal was right on the cusp.
It
It was,
probably was the right decision, wasn't it? I mean, we're about to move on to the obviously James Ward-Prowse disallowed, it wasn't a James Ward-Prowse disallowed, but the handball that never was.
yeah.
But when you saw the line, it was very marginal, but it probably was offside. Emerson's, wasn't it?
Yeah, I don't know. It's so difficult. It's the way they show you it again on the TV. I mean, if you watch the other game yesterday, the Arsenal Man United
Yeah,
game, the way the lines and the way they show you, it's so debatable that it should be clear as day. It should all be properly. And maybe it is. Maybe it's the way they show you it on the telly. But I mean, it was slightly. It did look slightly in front, but it was disappointing because it was a good finish. But yeah. So then we scored the second from a great delivery
well,
again from James
James
Ward-Prowse.
Ward-Prowse header. I mean, this guy. How many assists that in his first 3 games?
I don't know, was it? He's got one goal and like 3 assists or 4
Yeah,
assists.
no, not bad, is it?
It's not
I mean, there
bad,
was a
yeah.
few people questioning James Ward. I always wanted James Ward-Prowse, and every Southampton fan I know say he's just cracking off the field, on the field. He's got that free. We haven't even seen his free kicks yet.
No, that's
Um,
something it surprises me actually, because that if I was you know got a player like him in your team, I would be saying to the Ben Ramas of my team, saying, look, right, once you get to the box, run across the box and draw the foul. So bring the players out and draw.
mm,
But there doesn't seem to be any looking for fouls in that
yeah.
vicinity, knowing full well we got him
Oh, I can't
in the
wait for him
team.
to score another one and equal David Beckham's Premier League, and then beat it and become the. I think he's on 17. If he gets to 18, he records. He draws level with David Beckham, his hero, and if he gets 19, he's the record holder of
Hero,
free kick.
his
Anyway,
hero.
let's get back to the game. Kurt Zuma, what a
Zoo.
cat! Zuma, the cat
Well,
kicker. What a captain he is. I mean, he's
but he,
really
again, I
taken
like
his
the
role.
way he took it to their fans because they were giving him grief
Yeah,
as
but
well
I'm
about.
thinking, if you asked me last season who I think should be captain, well, you asked all of us. I don't think we'd be going, Zuma. I mean, it's just, I would have probably argued everyone else, but he seems to deal with it quite well, and he seems to be a leader. And you know, I'd be really disappointed if he doesn't get it permanently. 'Cause it hasn't been announced yet, but I assume it'd be very hard not to give it to him now. I
Yeah,
know
well,
James Ward-Prowse is a captain.
he
It
is.
seems slightly harsh to give it James Ward-Prowse, wouldn't
Well,
it?
I don't see why they would change it now if he's. But the only reason
Yeah.
would be is if he's a bit injury prone. So
Mm.
if he loses it on that basis, it's the same thing with Suchek. So there's talk about Suchek getting it,
Yeah. Well,
but
Suchet, well, he signed a new. By the way, here's what I think. I don't think Suchet's getting back in the team
well, that
anytime
was what I was
soon.
going to say. Is like after a performance like that, Alvarez, and who does he replace?
He
Who
doesn't.
does he
I,
come
I
back
just don't
into?
think Suchet gets. I think Suchet will be played in the Europa League games, and he won't get back into. Talking of that, the deadline went past at 11 o'clock today. I hope you got your tickets, John.
I didn't know.
Oh, you're
Did
just gonna.
you?
Yeah, I did. Yeah,
Did you think everyone did? Because I was kind of thinking that if I come, I'd rather come down with you lot.
yeah. Sorry, we should have. We were talking about it on the West Ham season ticket group. Like George Murphy and Mark
Yeah,
Murphy have got theirs. I got mine today with
but
Finley.
I just thought I'd rather come down there and sit in the gods and. But yeah, we'll talk about that
Yeah,
later nearer the time.
yeah. No, I'm looking forward to them. You know. Anyway, more of that later.
Yeah.
So yeah, Zuma, another good header. Hasn't he got the second most headed goals in the Premier League? I read or something.
Oh, I haven't seen that stat.
He's scored 12. I don't know if you know this, but he scored 12 Premier League goals, 10 of them from his head, and that's it. He's got the highest proportion out of all. This is the stat. Out of all people that have scored over 10 goals in the Premier League, he's got the highest proportion uh, from his head. What I
Right.
think, what a stat to get.
Well, there you go.
But
But
that's great, and why it's great is, you know, James Ward-Prowse. You know, we talked about Slabhead being the target man for James Ward-Prowse. Well, it's Zuma, isn't it?
yeah, absolutely. Well, you just. I mean, there is a large proportion of targets when we get a set piece now. We've got a
Well,
big, tall, strong team. So, but then they weren't very
we've got
present when
Dinos to come. He's a big lad.
well, they weren't very present when they
Kavrapanos. Is it Kavrapanos? I can't.
Dino Mavropanos or something.
Mavropanos. That's it.
But they weren't very present when they scored their goal, were they, Sean?
No.
It was sort of split between a Gerd and
Yeah, I sorry, I
Zuma.
didn't think Agerd played that great a game, and I think we could find him being dropped soon. Let's talk about the James Ward-Prowse handball. Let's start with what do you make? You've seen the replays. We've seen the.
I don't know what's handball anymore. I really don't know. I mean, if I was a Luton Town fan, I would have wanted that given. So, you know, why it wasn't, I
Yeah.
don't know. I don't know it changes so much. It's just, you know, but in the round, you can look at it and say, look, we've had so many bad decisions from VAR to not.
Mm. Well, I'll tell you what, Dermot. I mean, Finley was determined. We were in Fingarola in O'Sullivan Sports Bar, which I'll tell you in a minute. Met some hammers there. He was determined it was not a penalty. I thought it was a penalty. He was saying it was not a natural position. This is what Dermot Gallagher said. He said, this is one that shows us how handball law is at the moment. It could go either way. And the reason I say that is I sat with another former Premier League referee yesterday and we both looked at it. He said no and I said yes. That's him talking on Sky Sports. I worked on the basis that it's come a long way. He's seen it. It struck his arm. His arm is up at shoulder height. His argument was it came over the defender's head. He's looking away, and I think the dilemma you've got is in those situations you are really relying on the referee to give it. So because the referee didn't give it, yeah, he didn't give it at the time, did he?
No.
You only do a clear and obvious error. If he'd given it, it probably would have stayed that way.
Right.
So he said, well, two professional referees watching the replay couldn't agree, and it's all intent. And how can you decide intent? Is his arm natural or unnatural? Was he unsighted? You can see it both ways. So you're never going to get an argument here. I did like Paddy Power suggesting it was big club biased.
Yeah.
There was a few people saying, "Oh, Luton fans, it's big club biased." Well, we've finally made it, have we? If we're big club biased, but you've seen them go against us, so I think it would have been unfair if they had have drawn after all the effort we put in, and we only drew that. I mean, I'm sure they would have been delighted, but I think it was a fair result in the end.
No, I think we deserved the win, but we could I think we were quite lucky in the end to not get a draw. But we also saw it was good to see Kudos have a good run out, wasn't it?
Well,
To show us his quality.
Well, of course, my son Finley called this. He said, "I bet he brings him on with 5 minutes injury time to go," and he pointed out to us in our WhatsApp group that's exactly what happened. And the 91st minute he was brought on. They paid 5 minutes of extra time. They actually went to 96, so he was spot on that. He's very predictable, isn't he?
It's just like, come on.
Did you hear he asked Tim Steiden for his personal guarantee that
Paquetá won't
be,
Yeah. But I think that's on the basis that this time next year Paquetá won't be playing for us. So
yeah, maybe. And if we take the 85 million, then
what's happened with his charge things?
Well,
just gone.
I mean,
being investigated
it
and
has to
gone
be
quiet.
proved. So the FA has not proved and given any evidence to Paquetá's legal team or representatives. They haven't called him, and they're saying, "Well, it's a bit, why did you brief the press on this when you've got no evidence?" The situation is this, John, right?
Yeah, but it's gone in our favour because he would be playing for City.
He would have been, yeah. So before people sort of blame Betway and whistleblowers, this is all automated, right? The automated system, and it recently came up with a Europa League game that they've been betting on. The monitoring system is electronic, so when they see a pattern, it automatically flags to both the bookies and an independent body, who then notify FIFA. Then FIFA notified the FA and the Premier League. So there's no whistleblower, suggesting Sullivan or Betway, and it was all a bit of a con to stop the thing going through. The thing that finally triggered it, because there was one under investigation, was the Bournemouth one, interestingly, in the first game of the season. And maybe the FA thought, we're duty bound if there's a transfer to let this out in the public domain. But the Mail got hold of it somehow, and we don't know how. The situation is this, right? They have got in Paquetá Island that some individuals we don't know if they're relatives, some individuals on Paquetá Island where he grew up, opened some Betway accounts. The reason it's probably Betway is there's no the maximum bet. 500,000 is the maximum payout per bet. And 100,000 is the maximum deposit when you open up. So it allows you to do quite big bets. I don't know how much the bets were, but obviously there was betting on the yellow card, and another one. There's 4 or 3 games in. Now, the real problem is they have to prove collusion, and I mean not just unless he confesses and goes, yeah, I colluded with relatives or friends of mine to do it, and I spoke to them. They've got to prove it, right? And under international law, unless they can find a screenshot or have a tape recording of a telephone
Or
conversation,
someone comes forward
or,
and
or yeah,
bubbles
or a
him up.
witness, it's really hard to prove, right? Really
Yeah.
hard to prove. And this is what happened with the Arsenal, um, the Arsenal case, and I forget the guy's name. Took 16 months investigation. In the end, they dropped the case because they could provide no evidence.
Right.
Um, and and from what we hear, he's strenuously denying it, and they will have to prove evidence.
Well, it's not
You know,
affecting his performances,
yeah.
which is
So
good.
having some kind of betting monitoring to say that there's suspicious betting means nothing. I've been told by my contacts close to the FA that they deal with tens of these requests, if not over 100 requests at any one time. Over 100 players have been investigated for suspicious betting patterns in the Premier League, and 99% of them come to nothing. Now, people pointing to the Brentford striker, Tony,
Ivan Toney. Yeah.
is a completely different story, right? The guy used his own betting account, right? It's a completely different story. We're not people going, oh yeah, Pakistan's gonna be banned for 9 months. Hang on a minute. He used his own bank account, his own betting account. I mean, how stupid can you get,
But
right?
yeah, but
There's nothing to suggest any involvement in the actual betting.
in essence, the Paketar thing is worse because it's kind of fixing. So
It's alleged fixing.
yeah, yeah. So
And
if
whether
it
we
can be
like it or
proven,
not, can
if
it
it
be
can be
proven?
proven, yeah, that's it.
And the
If it can
likelihood
be
is it
proven,
can't. The likely is it can't be proven.
well, then that's that. Then
And that's that. I think you might find that actually we get to summer, it's still not concluded, John. You might find he's here next. That investigation's still dragging on, and we get him for another year. So I think
well,
we're the
it's
winner.
not a bad thing. Yeah, we are the
Not the
winners
bad thing. We're the
because he's
winners of
not.
this.
His attitude, his performances have been
It's cracking.
great. Yeah,
What did you think of Ross Bartley?
I didn't think anything of Ross Barkley. I thought he still didn't
He's gone,
impose
and
himself
his
in
days
anything.
are gone.
What do you think about us not buying a striker? Because obviously the transfer
Well,
window closed
yeah, I mean, we do.
that
Oh,
evening.
just one other one. Reece Burke. Did you notice Reece Burke playing?
I did notice Reece Burke.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I thought he looked all right. I
Yeah,
always quite liked him. I always thought
yeah.
he
Me
could
too.
perform at a high level.
Um, Look, I think we tried everything we could to get a striker. Uh, should Tim have flown out to Brazil to get Alberto? I don't know, but I don't think they were keen from the start. PSG, Juventus, I don't think really want to let their strikers go, and this is always the problem, right? Everybody wants a good striker, and no one wants to pay over the odds. But my senior source said, "Great window, just disappointing we didn't get a forward."
Yeah, I think most people were not.
But I don't
Surprised
think
we
that's
didn't get a forward.
not want of trying. I just think it didn't work out.
It'd be nice to see him give Obama more of a go and see if he can develop, but
Well,
it's not likely.
he's still bought on Ings.
Yeah, but Ings turned down the opportunity to move. Is that
He
correct?
did, yeah.
Is
I
that,
mean, that's the others.
is that a wages thing or because of what?
I don't know, really.
Who wanted him?
Everton, I think it was.
Was it?
Yeah. But I mean, that's the other story. I mean, I guess we've sort of done the
game.
the game. So, we kept all our players. I mean, obviously we let Rice go for 100 million, and yes, Gamaka wanted to leave, so we couldn't hold on to him.
Yeah,
Vlasic wasn't ever in our minds anyway, and really hadn't been in the squad, so no loss there. And obviously Lanzini didn't want to sign a new contract, and he wanted to go River Plate, and he was a sort of fringe player anyway. So we lost two players, right? Really.
Well,
but look,
what
at
were they?
one,
How do you put that down? We lost two players.
we lost
Scamacca was
Rice and Scamacca.
yeah, and Lanzini was
Well,
in the
Lanzini
squad.
really wasn't a league
But-
player.
But he was part of the squad.
Yeah,
the numbers in the
at
squad.
80 grand a week. I mean, he didn't want to sign a contract with us. All
Yeah,
right,
no,
let's
I'm
call it two
just-
and a half. Let's be kind and say we lost 2.5 players.
You know,
because
well,
he
you
was
can't
playing
complain
in-
about replacements. But what I would say, if it would have been really nice to have a striker. But then in some respects, I'm kind of glad he didn't get a striker because it can't ruin another one, you know.
Yeah, I mean, we kept obviously uh, Fornals. We kept Antonio, who definitely wanted to leave. We kept Ings. We kept Cresswell, who wanted to leave and went on strike. We kept Ben Johnson, who
But a
couldn't
lot of
out
these,
contract. We
Ben
kept
Johnson,
Cornet.
Ben
We
Johnson's contract's running out, isn't it?
Yeah,
Fornell's contract's coming to an end.
yeah.
There's no year
But
left, so
we
he's
got
going to
these
walk.
people in our squad at the end, and we couldn't find replacements. We kept Kara, who was linked to go to Bayern Munich. We kept Zuma, who was apparently going to go to Saudi Arabia. We kept Agur, who'd also been linked with someone. I can't remember who.
Saudi again, I think.
We kept Bowen, who was linked with a move to Liverpool. Who wasn't linked departing? I'm trying to think. Oh, Ben Rama was linked and an exit.
Should let him go.
And I've said Cornet. So yeah, I mean, most of our squad, if you read the media, most of them wanted out, but we kept all of them except 2.5, which is not bad. And the other thing, just to do a bit of a transfer roundup, because this is our first one since the transfer. I did. Our net spend was minus 17 million, so we received 17 million pound more than we spent. So we received 129 million. I'm just going to break that down in a minute, and we spent 112 million outbound. And I'm just without add-ons because I know Nigel doesn't like it. Rice 100 million, Skamaka 21.5, Vlasic 7.5. So that gets you to the 129 million. Inbound again without add-ons. Ward-Prowse 27. Alvarez 32.5, Kudos 35.5, and Dinos 17 million, which takes us to 112. If we take add-ons, it comes to 141 million spend. So that's Rice 100 plus 5 of add-ons. Skamaka was 21.5 plus 4.3 of add-ons. Vlasic was 7.75 plus 2.6 of add-ons. And you add all that together, that was 129 plus 12 million of add-ons. Inbound, Alvarez was 30. This came from a statement from Ajax. 32.8 million pound transfer fee with 2.6 million of add-ons. Ward-Prowse, 27 million pound plus 3 million of add-ons. Dinos, 17.1 million transfer fee plus 4.3 of add-ons. And Kudos, 37 million plus 2.6 of add-ons. And not forgetting, Sean Moore, our little person to, in the development team, our first signing, 100,000 up front with up to 500,000 of add-ons. Add them all together, you get 114 million of transfer fees plus 14 million of add-ons. That's 128 million, which, if you look at it with add-ons, minus 13 million with add-ons if they're all activated, which I'm sure they won't be.
What was this story about this bloke that we signed and lent straight back to?
Yeah, so that's an interesting story. His name is Andy Irvine. And Andy Irvine is a Scottish midfielder that plays for an Austrian team. And this is a Tim Steiden kind of thing. We're setting up, and Man City does this a lot, and so do some of the big clubs. It's an affiliate club.
And Brighton.
And Brighton. So what they do is we have an agreement where we can send our players to them, yeah, and they get, good players on loan, and we use them as a conduit to get European players on loan through them, which cuts a little bit of red tape. So they get a player and then loan them to us with an agreement, obviously, to buy if we want to. So there's nothing illegal about it. It's completely legal, and many ones do it. It just, after Brexit, sort of helps move the way. But my understanding, instead of paying that,
What has Brexit got to do with it? Was it just from a work
a lot
permit?
more difficult to sign players from Europe.
Right. Okay.
A lot easier if you're loaning them. Get what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, So instead of paying them a fee, we bought a player and loaned him back, probably permanently. He may never play for West Ham.
Right.
You get where I'm going with this?
Yeah.
So instead of just giving them a fee and go, you're an affiliate, because affiliate clubs don't technically exist, right? We did it as a bona fide transaction. We buy a player and then loan them to him as long as they want. And he's really good, but he doesn't look really good, does he? He doesn't look like he's going to slot straight into the team. So it's just a means to an end, and I think we're going to see more of these under Tim Steidten. And good luck to him. Loving the pictures of him on his private plane, and he was fully involved in the deals. So you can't have it both ways. You can't blame David Sullivan or David Moyes for this when we know Tim Steidten was out there doing his best to get a striker. It just didn't happen.
Yeah.
But we didn't get a striker. We can get a free agent. I suppose that brings us on to the elephant in the room, or as we call it, Jesse Lingard. Jesse Lingard is still not fit, and therefore hasn't been offered a contract. He's convinced, he's telling people he will get a contract, but he hasn't got a lot of time. I think maybe over the international break, it's make a break. And I'll tell you the reason why. We've got to submit 2 squads. We've got to submit a squad to the Premier League. You can always add to the Premier League, but you've also got to submit a squad to the Europa League, or UEFA rather, for the Europa League. And that's sometime in early September, so within the next week or so. And I think he's been given a deadline to get fit by that deadline to be named in the UEFA squad.
Right.
And I'm hearing it will be a performance-related package. So big appearance bonus, big goal bonus, big assist bonus, clean sheet bonus, etc., and maybe a smaller monthly figure. So really saying to him, if you think you're that special, put your money where your mouth is.
Yeah.
Good luck to him. I have no problem with him if he plays for the badge. Have you? Are you bitter? Are you bitter?
I'm not bitter. I mean, they're all, as Len would say, he dislikes footballers and all that. They are, they are what they are. He claimed that he got shown more love than he when he went to Forest,
Yeah, I
which
know. But you
essentially
can
means
pick up one.
more money. Then
Yeah. We got
so-
look. As I said, and I'm sure you didn't listen to it. I did an interview with Paul Ross on Talksport just before the Luton game, and I said, if we're all honest, if we were offered 10 million quid for a year, we'd take it.
Yeah.
If we were a footballer and we were offered £10 million to play for a year, we would take it. It's disingenuous to suggest that we would be any different and we would be less greedy, because we would take it.
yeah,
You only get one life, and a footballer's career is really short. So I don't blame him at all.
Well, I mean, I like to say, if he puts a shirt on, I'll support him. So
Yeah.
So that brings us really to our group, if we're talking about Europa.
Yeah. So obviously we've got quite an easy group.
You think it's easy?
I do think it's pretty easy. I mean, certainly I'd rather be in our group. I mean, Olympiacos.
The Newcastle's in the Champions League scene.
Yeah, well, they've got the group of death. So, Olympiacos, I think we've played Olympiacos before, haven't we?
I don't know. Can't
I'm going to look
remember.
that up. I'm pretty sure we've beaten them.
I mean, Olympiacos are going to be decent.
That's going to be naughty. If you come to the home game for that, mate. That's
they've got a ultra side, haven't they? So that'll be lively. I mean, Freiburg, decent side. The only
Are they
ones
decent though?
well, they're a known
champions in Europe, John.
They're a known historical side. Consistently play at this level.
I know, but considering where we've come in the last 2 years, where we
Well,
beat
yeah,
the
the
likes
when
of Villarreal and
yeah.
Marseille, etc., do we
I mean,
fear anyone?
look, you'd like to think we get out of the group. So if think how things have
Oh,
changed since the
we last
beginning.
played. Interestingly, John, you're like this. We last played Olympiacos in 1965, before both of us were
Oh,
born.
there you go.
29th of November 1965. We played them in UEFA European Cup Winners' Cup, where we won 4-0 at home at Upton Park, and away it was 2-2 in December. Jeff Hurst got 2 of the goals.
There you go.
Johnny Byrne got 1. Peter Bradbook got the other. Do you remember it? No, of course you don't.
No, I don't.
27,250 were there. I'm sure. Nigel would tell us he was there, but mate, you weren't born. You weren't born.
So the other one is Baka Topola.
So TSD or
C TSC
TSC.
FK TSC
They're the minnows, aren't
Baka
they?
Top. Well, they're Serbian. I think they're second in their group in their
They've got their
table at the
ultras. They've
moment.
never played in Europe before. Our allocation is likely to be 225 because
So
it's only 4,000.
what games do we miss on the away? No
The
fans,
the German one. What
right?
are they called? Freiburg.
Freiburg, yeah.
Freiburg. I'm just going to head to head and see if
SC Freiburg.
whether we ever played them. I can't remember ever playing them in our history. Yeah. So our away
So
ban,
is it one match away ban? Is it
1 match away ban. It's a 2-match away ban, but one is
one
suspended.
suspended?
So if we're naughty at the Olympiacos game, we won't see the last game. Interestingly, Olympiacos, the Greek authorities have the ability to ban away fans, and if they do that under the agreement of UEFA, there will be no away fans at either end. So it will be home for both. So they won't be able to come to us either if they ban us.
Right.
I'm just looking up. I don't think we've ever played Freiburg. No, I'm not seeing any previous games. So yeah, I mean, they're ones where we're not allowed to send anyone because of someone threw a cup at the final in Prague. A few
cups.
people. Olympiacos could get banned. There's another game that could get moved as well. There's some other game going on in Athens, but they're naughty out there. Let's be honest. And there'll be a high alert on the London Stadium. So hopefully we don't get any more trouble. And then we've got that little small one of 200 people in Serbia. So, but the home games are usual. I hope you can, now you're a season ticket holder, you're back in the fold. Hopefully you come to them. One's in September, one's in October, one's in December. No, one's in September, one's in November, one's in December.
Yeah, I'll say
and they're cheap as chips for you.
Yeah, and I'm assuming
I paid 90 quid, 30 quid each for mine, and 10 quid each. Yours are 15, so 45 for your 3 games.
But I say I'd like to go somewhere else and not get the nosebleed. But yeah.
Yeah, you could. You actually, that's a good point. You could probably, you can sit where you want. You can sit next to Nigel either.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point.
We'll see.
That's Europa League. I suppose that the other news story is not a lot going. Is takeover rumours again? It's funny.
Is there any truth in this story?
Well, it started because the Glazers have pulled out of selling Man United. Yeah, and of course it's easy prey to then say, oh, the Saudis, the Qataris, and Sir Jim Ratcliffe are now back in for West Ham. Well, that's just speculation. There's no substance as far as I'm aware. I know people go, well, you wouldn't be aware because they're bound to non-disclosure. Well, you always say that. Secondly, I don't think they'll go for West Ham. If they can't get... No disrespect to West Ham. If you can't buy Man United, you don't go straight down to the basement market, You go to Spurs, don't you? You got their
Well,
principal
I don't know
owner.
about Spurs.
Well, you do. if you want, a top four club that regularly finishes, you probably buy off Daniel Levy and what's his name, who's in trouble at the moment.
No, I don't know about that.
You know what his name is? Insider trading. Who owns Spurs? That's apart from Daniel Levy.
I can't remember the guy's name, but yeah,
You know what I mean, though, don't you?
he's in trouble for what?
Lewis, someone Lewis.
Joe Lewis.
Joe Lewis. He's in trouble for insider trading. He's been arrested. Apparently, allegedly, he was telling his chauffeur and other staff to buy certain shares. And he's been indicted in New York. And I tell you what, they in America, New York, they take their insider trading really seriously. Don't matter if you're a billionaire or not. So he could be doing some time. But anyway, no truth, as far as I'm aware, in this, and he's it's just pure speculation. Interestingly, I was told something the other day. Someone told me that someone in mergers and acquisitions have been contacted about buying some or all of David Gold's old shares. But that's not my information. My information is that obviously, what if that's the case? Why was Vanessa Gold made joint chairman? Right, there is a complicated system. 7% of the shares owned by David Gold are owned by a trust, and they could eventually be sold to help with death duties, I guess. The other 18% were owned in David Gold's name. Okay, now David Gold did clear all his other problems, but he didn't do this, and I think there's a reason for that. And the reason is he wanted his family to retain the West Ham shares. He said so in an interview with me for this podcast, and he said so in other interviews. And I think Vanessa, she doesn't need the money. She owns Ann Summers. Will want to, follow her father's wishes. The other situation is she would have to pay inheritance tax and capital gains tax. So, if you remember what David Gold bought the shares for, his 25% was probably less than 25 million. He's got to pay 20% capital gains tax on that. But they have to pay 40 or 45% whatever inheritance tax also on his whole estate. But there's a little get around this, and it's called business relief. And it says that if there's a family business, right, so that's got to be a private company, not a listed company, which it is, and you've held the shares for over 2 years, and it's sort of held in the family, which it is, then you can forego inheritance tax if you hold the shares for a period of time. So that's I see the shares, maybe the 7% sold to raise some money, but I see the other 18% staying in the Gold family for some time, and that's why I think Vanessa Gold has been made joint chairman. The other thing that doesn't make sense in this story that I was told by someone financial said, they're approaching the mergers and acquisitions bank, is there's what's called a put and hold agreement. When Daniel Kredinsky bought into West Ham, there was a put and call agreement put in the agreement. And a put and call says that the other directors have first opportunity on those shares. And it's often been reported that Daniel Kredinsky has first dibs on David Sullivan's shares, which is true. And the reason is it goes in shareholder order of who's got the most shares. Well, David Sullivan is the top shareholder, so if he sells his shares, they get offered to Daniel Kredinsky first, then Trip Smith, then Terence Brown, then or the other way around, and Daniel Harris. Right? Now, if David Gold's shares get sold, because he's 25% shareholder, they first get offered to David Sullivan, yeah. Then they get offered to David Daniel Kredinsky, then they got offered to Trip Smith in that order. So they wouldn't go to open market unless all the directors turned them down, and that's called a put on hold. So, talk of it going to the bank, talk of takeovers is I think a little bit far fetched. And I'm just going to finish by the Button Monkey, Russ Button, messaged me today and said, "Whoa, Sean, what is West Ham worth?" So I looked at it, and following there's called a multivariant model. Yeah, and I won't be too boring, but you take the revenue.
I don't know about that.
You take the revenue, add net assets, times it by net profit plus revenue, divide it by revenue, times it by the stadium capacity filled, and then divide it by the Wade ratio. Right? You with me so far, John?
Yeah, God, just say the figure, Sean.
600 million.
Right. Okay.
Now, for comparison, Daniel Kredinsky spent 168.5 for 27%, which values us at 555. Forbes value us at 850 million. SQAF have a valuation at 831. My valuation, based on the market and we're champions in Europe, is to the right buyer at the right time. The current shareholders would sell for between 800 and 1 billion. That's the price. I think someone like Trip Smith would only sell at the 1 billion mark. But it's not true at the moment. As far as we can tell, no substance in Saudi interest, no interest from Sir Jim Radcliffe or the Kuwaitis. There's one story that I just show it's inaccurate. So this story keeps on repeated. The reason the Kuwaitis want to buy it, or the Qataris, is they own all the land in Queen Elizabeth Park. That's not true. The land, Queen Elizabeth Park, is owned by the London Legacy,
LDC.
yeah, who haven't leased much of it. It's true that outside the Queen Elizabeth, there's a number of buildings, and some of them have used the Qatari investment fund. But people keep on repeating this inaccuracy to say we own, the Qataris own the Queen Elizabeth Park land. No, they don't. It's a matter of public fact. Anyway, I broke my rule, John.
Yeah, I nearly dropped off. So yeah, that'll do us.
Is there anything else? There's nothing else in the news, is there, for now?
No, not as far as I can recall. I mean, I look forward to Kudos showing us that everyone was very excited about the player, and I hope he.
Well, we should do a prediction, because I'll be going to my first game. You're going to be going for your second game. I hope you're going to Man City after the international break. We don't know if we'll record next week. We'll see what our numbers are like. I'm sure Nigel will still be in Japan. We'll see everybody else. Anyway, let's do a prediction anyway. Manchester City. It's the decider for the title, John.
Well, let's go optimistic and go for a 1-1 draw, Sean.
Well, it's going to surprise you, but I'm going to go for. I'm going to go for a 1-0 win, John.
I know you are. Yeah.
Imagine that. Imagine beating City.
That. Yeah,
Imagine
that would be great.
Yeah.
And it's currently still like a 3:00 kickoff, isn't it? So as far as I know.
I think it is.
So,
is that on a Saturday?
No, I think it'll be a Sunday by then, won't it?
Yeah, you wait your first Sunday night football.
No, it is Saturday. It is Saturday.
Is it Saturday?
3 p.m. Saturday the 16th.
Yeah, because we haven't started our European campaign yet, have we?
So
there you go. Anyway,
we'll have to meet up in a drinking hole.
We said we were only going to do half an hour to 40 minutes. We've given you 55 minutes of our lives, and don't worry, there is still that Karen Brady interview to come after the theme tune. So
hang on in there if you want to listen to that.
I've been Sean, and John has been
talking a lot more than I normally do.
Come on, you Irons.
Bobby Moore. More than just a podcast. Bobby Moore. More than just a podcast.
I've got so much time and respect for David. He is a class act, both on and off the pitch. He is so passionate about everything he does. He's so professional. I've never met a manager who works harder, who thinks more deeply, who cares so much. His ambitions are all for West Ham, and he's a joy to work with. And I was so pleased for him. It'd been a difficult Premier League season, and I know that was a disappointment for him. So to end the season with the trophy was very sweet for him and exceptional for the players. I think, you only really know how good a manager is when things aren't going well. And when they start to turn things around, the ability to keep everybody together, to be focused, to go again, to be resilient, and to be, focused on the end game. He's an incredible manager.
You obviously sold Declan Rice. You didn't necessarily want to sell Declan Rice, but you got into a position, I presume, where you thought, well, if we really do get that sort of money and we can reinvest in the team, and it doesn't always go right. We saw Spurs once, all the Gareth Bale money spent on 7 players didn't work out. So is there almost, you get this money together and think, now what?
Well, look, my job was to sell him. It's
the other.
Well, no. To sell it, to do the deal. It wasn't to sell him. It was to do the deal. I mean, we did not want to sell him. You're quite right. He made a decision that he wanted to go. Having made that decision, my job was to get the best possible price for him, so that the club could then go back in again and make every penny of that count. And I think that's exactly what we did. It's very difficult when a player doesn't want to stay. I mean, we tried everything we could to convince him to stay in terms of the contract. He'd been speaking to his father for about 2 years. We're trying to build a team around him. He's a special player and actually a gentleman, a very nice young man, good to have around, great captain. And it's it's a sort of unrequited love when when you love them but they don't love you, and I think he did love West Ham. I think he loved West Ham a lot, but I think he took a view that he wanted to see his career outside of West Ham, and that's exactly what he was driven to do, and that's exactly what he was determined to do. And faced with that, clubs have no choice but to try and get the best possible price they can and move on.